page 9 in that report. Option 1 says the secondary continues to be the first tier. There's 60 minutes between tiers. And then it's just saying, and we'll need an extra 20 minutes to get the kids to the second school. So what they did is they took our run that we would have had for Gil Montague, dropped the high school kids off from that bus at the high school, and then went to Pioneer and dropped the middle school students off. So the middle school students will be 20 minutes late.
That's not acceptable.
That's not exactly what we were looking for, but you know, we ran out of time with, and I was trying to review these routes, which wasn't really going well. But that's where they ended up. And the people at the back of this report that put this together, there was Terrell, Danielle, and it looks like those two. You know, we could probably work with them again to revise this, to take this report and make it more usable. But this is, it looks like that's option 1. So they'll drop the kids off at the high school, add 20 minutes and go to the other school. Then option 2 says, now we're going to reverse the tiers, secondary and elementary.
Can I just break in? Alan has just joined us. Alan, are you there?
Hi,
I
Alan.
am. Thank you.
Okay,
Hi,
good.
everybody. Good to see you all.
Hi.
Which means we have a quorum. So why don't I
Okay.
call this meeting to order? And Joanne, would it be awful if I asked you to quickly start at the beginning again?
Sure.
Or sorry about this.
No problem.
But I just think it would be helpful.
So Mike,
Alan
you
to-
announced, Mike, did you announce that you're recording the meeting and everything now before you do
Uh,
that?
oh,
You're calling
right, I
to
should.
order and gonna
I
make your
am
announcement?
recording the meeting. This is a meeting of the Six-Town Regional Planning Board Finance Transportation Facility Subcommittee called to order at 4:10 p.m. Recording the meeting. We're talking with Joanne Blyer from Gil Montague, the business manager, business director.
Yep,
Director of-
director.
Okay. And Alan, she's been filling us in on what she had hoped for and what we got. And I think it'd be helpful if you heard that, Joanne. I apologize, but.
Okay.
Okay, you have to do a roll call vote so you
Oh, for
recognize that we're present.
Oh, okay, sorry, Alan, thank you.
Attendance.
You're, I'm
Yes.
trying to keep things moving along and I'm skipping steps here. Okay, attendance, Lynn Reynolds,
Lynn Reynolds. Here.
Michelle Geruso,
Here.
Alan Genovese,
Present?
Mike Naughton, present. David Young, not present. Jane Dutcher, not present, expected. David Young, not present. Okay,
Good go.
Okay. So when we hired TransFinder to do this report, I explained to them what we were trying to take a look at. We were trying to say this 2 different districts that both had a middle high school would be merged. One school would house the middle school, the other building would house the high school. And so we needed routes created to get all of the middle schoolers to one school and all of the high schoolers to the other school. So rather than take all of the students, because they had the list of students, they had all the addresses, they had the mileages, they had everything they needed to put these routes into place. And rather than take all the middle schoolers and create a new route for it, they took the Montague existing routes, dropped the Montague's high school students off at Turners Falls High School, and then traveled to Pioneer to drop the middle school students off. And a Pioneer route would have done the same thing. They would have picked up the Pioneer students from their normal Route 11, dropped off the middle school students at Pioneer, and then traveled to Turners Falls to drop off the high school students. Not exactly what we were looking for, but, and I'm not sure how that works with, you know, time on learning and how much time the kids have to be in school and the start time and the end time for school, but we ran out of time with them. And I just didn't have the ability to really dig into their report and say, no, this isn't what we're looking for. So I did look at it several times and I would send it back and say, no, this isn't what we're looking for. We need you to do this. And, you know, the last time when this report came, we just ran out of time on our contract with them. So I realize this is still not what we're looking for. So if you look at page 9, option 1, that says we need 60 minutes between elementary and secondary. And so when they drop off the Montague kids and the Gill kids at Turner's Falls High School, for high school, those kids will be on time, I imagine. And the kids at Pioneer are going to be 20 minutes late. And then it'll be in reverse for the kids that are coming from Pioneer. Or
the
they're
kids will be there 20 minutes early.
right.
They dropped off first.
Right. And then the other ones will be on time. So it's one way or the other. So for option 1, it's taking the 60 minutes in between tiers. And so, you know, the start time of school needs to change a little bit to adjust that. Option 2 and so that option needs 19 vehicles to do it, which is pretty close to what we have now. I believe right now we have 17. So that's not too far off. If they move secondary to the last tier and elementary earlier, that's option 2 on page 15. And if you go to page 20 at the end of that, it says for that option, we're going to need 33 buses. So that's definitely a no-go. And option,
Joanne, when you're saying elementary, do you mean middle school? Or are they running the elementary runs too?
they did the elementary runs, but they're not changing at all, right? Our elementary runs are what they are, and what they're looking at is they put these runs all into their system. And they said these runs last a certain amount of time. And that's what these little graphs are showing. So page 10,
secondary is 6 through 12 is considered secondary, middle school, high school, is that?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And, you know, and if Pioneer is 7 through 12, then Pioneer 7 through 12. Really at Gill Montague, it's only Montague that's 6 through 12. Gill is still 7 through 12.
Okay.
At the middle school, high school, unless students choose to go to the middle high school, you know, they have that option. But Gill Elementary School has a 6th grade.
Do most of the kids stay there in 6th grade, or do a good number decide to go to the to the high school for 6
Gill?
to 12? Yeah.
Most of the kids stay in Gill, and I think,
Okay.
you know, many of them are, you know, NMH, future NMH students, and they never end up going to Turner's Falls High School or Great Falls Middle School.
Okay.
I think if they stick around in Gill for 6th grade, chances are they're not coming to to Great Falls Middle School at all. Maybe they'll go to a charter school, or maybe they'll go somewhere different. But I believe if we get a 6th grader in Gill, we're going to keep them for the long term. But if we don't get a 6th grader from Gill, if they stay at Gill Elementary, you know, in the future, they're probably not coming to Great Falls Middle School.
So the pattern for your enrollment is that the Gill 6th grade, when those kids max out their school of choice isn't Turner's Falls. They go different places. Is that the pattern?
Yeah, I think for the most part they do. We have far more Irving students in Great Falls Middle School and Turner's Falls High School than we do Gill students. Far more.
Okay.
But,
And
you
then
know,
they're
Gill is
responsible for their own transportation, right? Are they responsible for their own transportation if they choose elsewhere, or is
Oh,
that
yeah.
the district's responsibility?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And that's just, you know, so we call the secondary 6 through 12, but that's only if they're attending the middle school.
Yeah.
If a 6th grader attends Gill Elementary or attends one of the Pioneer schools, they would still be part of elementary.
Okay,
So option 2 on this report on page 15, that's the one that reverses, it flip-flops elementary and secondary, the start times. So now it's saying that elementary students go to school at 7:30 and secondary students go to school at 8:30.
This Jane.
Hi.
Hi, Jane.
Hi.
Hi, Jane.
So, and at the end of option 2, you can see that that would require even more buses. And it's probably for the end of day, bringing the kids back home.
still, how many more? 33 was in the last one, right, for elementary? How many more?
No, 33 would be that number. So the option 1, when secondary is first, that's page 14, shows the number of buses. So that shows that in the morning you need 17 buses and in the afternoon you need 19 buses.
Okay,
Then when we go to option 2 with the reversal, on page 20, you see the numbers. So in the morning you need 17 buses still, but in the afternoon you now need 33 buses.
got it.
And then option 3 leaves the 45-minute between elementary and secondary start time. And so, just thinking about this, it's probably not going to work because 45 minutes isn't very much time to begin with. So when you go to option 3, when you look at the number of buses on page 26, it shows we need 19 buses in the morning and 25 in the afternoon.
Crazy.
But keep in mind that all of this is saying the high school kids for Montague and Gill are getting dropped off 20 minutes before the middle school kids from Montague and Gill get dropped off at Pioneer. So, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
isn't
It's
the
gotta be-
ideal
Did-
What I
way
was thinking.
so
to set up.
Joanne, how many miles in total does Pioneer have separate and does Gil Montague have separate? And then how many additional miles is it requiring to do this? Or is it just the aggregate of both those and it's just the drop off and pickup times that are changing?
Yeah, all they did on this is say, whatever Pioneer's doing, they're still going to do. After they
No.
drop off at Pioneer, they're going to head down to Turns Falls High School and drop students off. Anything that Montague did
Weird.
is going to stay the same. They're going to drop off the Montague students at Turns Falls High School. Then they're going to head up to Pioneer and drop students off there. So this isn't exactly what I had pictured when I requested them to do this report.
So if we get the grant, Joanne, we can be much more, specific and maybe put out there what we think would work a little bit better. And then, hold them to this. So this was Kosmeskis that did this. Now, am I the only one that doesn't have the report or should I, did
Yeah, I don't.
Mike,
have
do
to
you
be-
have this report?
I
Yes,
don't
yes.
have it.
It was
It's
sent
on the
around.
site.
It's on the website, Alan, and
Okay,
I got I think I got the final copy off the website.
Okay.
okay.
But
All
it's,
right,
This
I'll
but
take
it's,
a look.
but
Thank
it's, it may be the same as the draft that we got back last summer. Dated July 29th. They're both.
Joanne,
dated
how do I
July
know I'm
29th.
looking at the right one, Joanne? Does it have a specific title like final or?
It doesn't say draft across it.
Okay,
Mine stated December
So
10th.
should be July
Transfer- okay.
29th. And there's
Okay.
no draft.
thank you.
across.
got it. July 29th. Thank you.
Right. So this report was put together by TransFinder, which is a transportation routing company. So I've been working with Kosmeskis, and they are putting all of our routes into TransFinder. And so, I wonder if we get this grant, if it goes through into the summer, that maybe the people that have been working on this would think, maybe we can use this as an opportunity to get more familiar with TransFinder and put some routes together. Maybe we'll be able to have them do the routing and understand exactly what we're looking for.
The TransFinder is a program as well as a consulting firm? Or-
Right. So TransFinder is the program, and they offer these consulting services as well. So everything is in there with the old student database, the student database last summer. It's all in TransFinder, and that's what they use. So because it's all in there, and Cosmescus is getting more familiar with it as I'm having them do our routing in it now, it's possible they could be interested in a consult for this, which would probably get us a better product because they understand our area and what we're looking for. And they're local. They'll have a better idea of what we are trying to say. It seems that TransFinder didn't quite understand what we were trying to do or why we were doing it.
Okay.
Okay. How much did we pay them, Joanne?
I think we might have paid them $7,000.
My God.
Okay.
Yeah. But we didn't have anyone dedicated, like from, anyone from the group working with them. So I was trying to work with
Yeah.
them, in between the whole
Yeah,
shutdown. So, it
yeah,
was.
no, I'm not blaming you at all. I'm just thinking if we do this again, maybe I can sit down with you and get a really good idea, and then maybe I could just, help to guide them and work with them to make sure that we're holding their feet to the fire, and
Mm.
any ideas that you have, that we make sure that we have them, follow that path. Because it sounds like
Yeah. I think
they took the easy way out.
it might be good
Let's
to say,
start-
like, here
I'm
are all
sorry.
of our middle schoolers. We need them all to go to these schools, and don't give them the existing routes. Just say, these are the kids. This is where they need to go. These are the kids. This is where they need to go. They
Right.
wanted the existing routes. I gave them the existing routes because I thought that's where we're going to use as their starting point to say, this is what you have now, and then recreate all of these routes to create new things. But, from looking at this earlier today, I don't see that they created any new routes. They just added a 20-minute extension to each one.
That's what it looked like to me.
For 7,000.
That was one of my questions, is that basically what they did? I'd like the answer is yes.
It was
Right.
kind of hard to look at the maps though and come up with a different route, a combined route that made more sense.
Right. And the maps will help them do that, so all the students are in here. And, I have Cosmescus in there now. And if I hook them up with the information that TransFinder used, they could probably take that and just get rid of all the routes. The students are in there, and then new routes can be created using, because they can see where the students are. So what the map does is it pinpoints where every student lives on the map. And if you zoom into areas of that map, you can say, well, this is a group of students. We can pick these up, and then we can travel down this road and pick up more kids and end up at the middle school or end up at the high school.
Well,
So,
Joanne, does that raise the question of the same issue that's been identified with the tech school, whereas now you have one bus going down a road picking up middle school kids and high school kids? Would that
right,
mean
and the
you
tech
might
school.
have, and the right? Would you then have two buses because one would be heading to the high school and the other would be heading to the middle school?
Yeah. Well, if we consider how this would work, right? So the kids that are coming from the far reaches of Montague Center, they're going to have to get picked up early. But the kids that are sort of in between, the Gill kids, they're going to be at the end of a route no matter what. One bus is going to be going that way to Pioneer. The other bus is going that way to Montague. Those kids are going to be in the middle, or at the end of a route, but the bus is going to be going in the wrong direction for them. So one bus will be going this way, the other bus will be going that way, and they'll be picking up kids along, Main Road and Gill, or on Route 63, the same thing would happen. So I don't think we would have buses following each other because they're going to be starting on different ends and sort of going to the opposite place.
Mm.
Where,
Joanne, a little off topic, but is it, have you thought about, or is it possible that, taking us out of the picture for a minute, could you like share a bus with the tech school, and they're picking up your kids and their kids, and saving both districts some money, because you're combining a couple buses that are going to be going down the street to maybe take a kid there, and then another bus is going down the street to bring a kid to Turner's Falls.
right, we actually worked with Pioneer, I mean, not with Pioneer, with the tech school when we would have homeless students, and so if we had a homeless student
Yeah.
in Sunderland, then we did get that student onto a tech school bus to get to Turner's Falls High School. Doesn't work for elementary school. And, it only works if tech school bus has enough time to do that. The bus is coming from Orange, then it's not going to come drop off at Turner's Falls High School first. It's going to go to the tech school to drop off first. But if it's coming
Okay.
from Sunderland, it probably can come by Turner's Falls High School first. So we did use buses for that. But I think what the tech school does is if they have a bus in Sunderland, as it's getting into Montague, it starts picking up the kids in Montague. So it doesn't have a dedicated Montague bus or a dedicated Gill bus. It combines those. So by the time the buses are getting close by here, we don't really need them for that, because we need multiple buses to pick up students just in Turner's Falls, or, right in downtown Turner's Falls. We need multiple buses.
Yeah. Does it make any sense to have a shuttle where, I'm going back to Pioneer now, that instead of going the whole way, if they take the kids on a shuttle halfway or something, and they get off that bus and get on the other bus, and then they shuttle to, their respective schools? Would something like that be worth exploring?
Some of that could work. Yeah. Yeah. I think,
That's a tech
coming from
school.
certain areas, that could work.
Does the tech
Mhm.
school do any of that now?
I'm not sure how much the tech school does for shuttling. They
Long time
may,
ago, I know they tried it, and I don't remember how it worked out.
One of the things
Yeah.
they
I
said
did
in
that
the
at
report,
Mohawk. Yeah, I did that at Mohawk, but that was all, there were 9 towns, and so maybe it lended itself better to that. But I was just thinking, if you merge the districts, that might cut down on time, and it obviously would cut down on miles, because they're not making the full trip there. I don't know, it's just something we could maybe think about later on if we pursue, looking at options for transportation.
yeah, we have some feeder buses here in Montague too. And, at Mohawk, there were some, but as I dug into our routes here in Gil Montague, when I first came, I found that the feeder buses weren't really necessary.
Mhm.
There was one bus
Yeah.
that a big bus could get everywhere that the feeder bus was going. And the feeder bus
Mhm.
costs just as much as a big bus. There's no savings. Doesn't matter about
Oh,
the
yeah.
mileage, because
Yeah.
they charge per bus per day. That's the cost. And so we
Right,
had a
right.
bus that was feeding into another bus that was completely unnecessary.
What about sports? How would that work if, all the kids are, they're on a football team, and so the game's over. Was that part of the transportation look at, or is that all outside of this? How do you do that? You must have a separate line item for sports transportation, right? It's not considered regular transportation. Did
Yeah.
they?
That would be
thought about
completely
how much-
separate. That would
Yeah.
be separate. So, there's a rate for each bus, but I would think if we're merged, then the 2 high schools used to send 2 buses to go to a game, but now they become 1 high school. There's going to be half the number of buses, somewhat half, maybe maybe there's a football team, maybe there's a basketball team. And so now that there's one basketball team, there's going to be one bus. So that would be the savings. So
I see.
basically one school would save all the money they paid for transportation for sports because the other one would be paying it. And the other school would save all the money for middle school for sports because the other one would be paying it. You know, so I don't think, you know, I think the savings would be just in basically looking at the total cost of athletic transportation and then comparing the two, and it would be closer to equal to one of those costs.
Right.
So it'd be half of it. You'd
And then
say.
I guess late buses would be off the table, you know, for kids staying after for clubs and stuff, right? Or do you have late buses now?
We have a late bus coming from one of our elementary schools, and then we have a late bus from the high school, middle school. And it just sort of goes around town to where students need to go. So we do have a late bus. I don't know if Pioneer does. But it's just a single late bus.
And is
And it
that the
just sort
same
of
deal where you
does a
don't pay
loop.
mileage?
That's a rate. No, it's like a certain dollar amount per day each time that bus runs. And it doesn't
Okay.
run for the entire year, but it runs for, you know, it probably starts usually 20 to 30 days into the school year. And then it doesn't run on half days. So,
But say now it goes around Montague and Gill, if it were to have to start going to Northfield and Bernardston.
yeah, that price would, it would
might-
go up.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a set price, but it wouldn't be the same set price.
Right. It's a set price. And, you know, based on our needs and our history, they set that price in the bid. But if
Okay.
we were to go back out to bid and say, well, now we're going to merge and that late bus might have to go farther, then they may, you
I mean,
know,
it
I
would
would
make
imagine
sense
they
they
would
would have
increase
to
that.
somehow incorporate mileage because
Yeah,
that's not a small cost for those things.
right.
Joanne, isn't
Yes.
there a group bid on transportation?
Yes.
So everybody's paying the same for their late bus because that's what's in the bid.
No, they bid on each district separately.
Oh, so it's not a group bid, really.
Well, we went out to bid as a group, but then, you know, everybody's a little bit different. So if I'm telling them what I need for my late bus, they're giving me a price based on what I need for the late bus. If they know somebody else is saying, I'm going to need a late bus, but I want the late bus to come at 5:00, then they're going to say, 5:00, I got to pay someone when they finish working at, you know, 3:30, 4:00 until the bus goes at 5:00. And so, you know, I need to charge more. They need to charge for that middle time. And so, you know, they bid those things completely separate. But the price per bus per day, those might be the same for everybody. I don't remember. But when you think about what the buses are doing, you know, I have a Montague bus that might drive 5 miles. You know, yet there's a bus for Leiden that probably drives 30 miles. And we're paying the same price for that bus for a day.
Wow, that's
So it's
crazy.
not based on mileage. It's based on, you know, the overall average.
Well, thank you.
And the tech school has buses. They might go a long ways, but they only do one route. They don't go out and do an elementary route and a high school route, right? They're just doing one route, and they pay the same as we do for doing double routes.
Hmm.
You don't save anything from a single route.
Are the, this is just, again, a slightly off topic. Are the bus drivers getting paid now through any of this stimulus money?
We've
They should
tried
call it
to-
relief money.
Yeah, we've tried to keep the bus company paid so that way they would have people when we needed them to go, when we needed them to start delivering students again. We've used buses from Kismeskis throughout this time to deliver our meals. We've used them to drive our students out of district to sites. We've used them when we brought kids in for remote learn for hybrid learning. So we've been using our buses for quite a few different things.
Yeah.
And I also had them look at all of our routes and do revisions in their spare time for the people that weren't out there driving. So,
Mm.
I tried to keep them busy. I know I'm still going to submit it to on my end of year report for transportation reimbursement. That's my cost of transportation, the agreement I made. So we might be paying a little bit more than we could if we had tried to save money. But if we took too much money out of their pocket, we would have trouble
Yeah.
getting drivers, getting our buses back on the road when it was time. And the state's
Absolutely.
paying 85% of our costs. So, is it really worth the fight to take money out of their pocket, to not have drivers, to not have the ability to run all those other routes during that time? So
No,
You know,
you're
I
doing the right thing.
wasn't
No, you're doing the
significant.
right thing. Yeah. Anyone else have any specific transportation stuff? Because I had a few others while Joanne was here that we could,
Well, yeah,
Captain.
I've got a couple of questions on the report itself. Does anyone else have questions on the report?
I think we all do.
I've read it.
Okay. Well, these hopefully, I just was curious on pay and based on what we talked about and how this wasn't quite what you were looking for, this may be moot anyway, but I was curious on page 4, looking at the graphs. The bottom graph shows elementary morning trip lengths for Gilmontague with a purple line there, which my understanding, which may be wrong, is that purple line means that those two routes that it crosses are too long because they interfere with another route for the high school, or they interfere somehow with the high school.
Right.
And my question is, since the elementary start times, I mean, the elementary is the second, I guess they call it tier, right?
Mhm.
What do they call that? I'm not sure. The word tier confuses me, but anyway, the elementary buses run after the high school buses run.
Right.
So why would an elementary bus have a conflict? It would seem like the conflicts would all be on the high school side, or am I misunderstanding something?
Yeah, that was a little confusing to me also when they did this. In some of our buses, maybe we need to start a bus a little bit earlier. Maybe, the amount of time they put in between, like how long does it take to pick up a student, right? So you drive from point A to point B and you have to stop for what, 60 seconds, maybe, to let a certain number of students get on the bus, and then you go to point B, point C, you continue on the route. So based on their calculations, it looked like some of our elementary runs, the kids were going to be late. And we did have a problem with, I think route F might have been our biggest problem, which is our feeder bus, because it was going far off into the woods, pick up students to come back. But some of the other routes, we really didn't run into issues with these buses overlapping. So,
Okay. I was
think-
just trying to understand what they were trying to tell me. And I sort of understood when they said, okay, I've got this run at the high school that it's going to take so much time that you need another bus to do the elementary side because the first bus isn't done yet.
right. So that's what they're trying to say. And so I think, if they're looking at this, so if we look at E2 and A2, they're saying after the high school gets dropped off, you don't have enough time to do this route for the elementary, except they labeled it
Okay.
kind of funny.
Okay. And my other question was, they had, the last thing they did before the maps was what do they call it? A fully routed option 1, right? And they decided that needed 20 buses, whereas the option 1 earlier had needed 19 buses.
Oh,
And I was just wondering, but they also made a comment about how they say in the previous analysis, it was not recognized that there were 3 bus runs that served Irving. And now we've added those.
right. So they
I
somehow,
wasn't sure, was it going from 19 to 20 because of the Irvings, recognizing Irving? Or
no,
was it
I wonder,
because-
if
I mean,
maybe
why-
they, when they were putting this report together, if page 36, where they said you need 20 versus that early page where they said they needed 19, if they just didn't proof their work and update both. So when they fully routed the buses for option 1 and they said, okay, we need 20, I think it's 20. And it's probably 23 because Irving wasn't included.
Okay,
Irving has 3
Okay.
buses.
okay, so it wouldn't make sense that when they fully route it, the number of buses would change.
No,
My question is, well, what happens to the other options then?
yeah.
You decide what
Oh,
you
they
want
get
to do.
worse, right? Yeah.
I imagine they do, but
Yeah,
Yes,
when they were doing this, I said the option we would most want would be option 1,
right,
because we wouldn't want to flip flop or elementary and secondary. And it doesn't make sense to have 45 minutes between the runs if it doesn't work. So we want the 60 minutes. We want secondary first, elementary second. We want Irving
Okay.
to go to school with us,
okay.
but we don't want 20-minute, all the kids being 20 minutes late.
I have one more sort of general question. Is there any consensus or best practice or I don't know what the right phrase is for amount of time that kids, sort of a maximum amount of time that kids spend on a bus? I mean, clearly you don't want to put a kid on a bus for, 3 hours,
No.
whereas 15 minutes is fine. Is there,
Right.
is there thinking
Joanne,
about,
does the state
know,
still have the no more than an hour?
I thought it was
Or-
an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the hour is more for special ed requirements. Because if you look at
Hmm.
some routes, like in Mohawk, the regular ed kids might be on the bus for an hour and 15 minutes, just because if you're picking up 25 miles from the school and you're taking back roads all the way to that school and picking up kids along the way, it could be more like an hour and 15 minutes. And tech school students, coming from here and going all the way up the trail and out in every imaginable direction, those students are on the
Yeah.
bus for more than an hour.
Yeah.
I noticed some of our runs are more than an hour.
Yeah. So it's the special ed that they really try to limit to the hour, but there's less
Okay.
students on those buses. But when you're going out of district and you're driving from here to Westfield, you're eating up a pretty good part of an hour.
Yeah, how about elementary? No max on there for an hour? No?
No, but I think the
Okay.
hour is, if you stay close to that hour, that's acceptable. If you start going over that, it just becomes a long day for kids.
Yep.
And probably more problems on the bus.
Oh, I would imagine so, yeah.
I-
Some
Especially
kids,
if
we're
you-
happy to
A
pick
bus
them
is
up
a,
and get them off the bus 5 minutes later. We're just happy to do that.
a
One
bus
time
is
I-
a
Actually, that
classroom
was
on
another
wheels.
question. That was another question I had, Joanne. Would there be an issue, and this might be addressed if we can get another study. Right now, how close to the school do you bus kids?
1.5 miles.
A mile and a half. So I
Right.
imagine that especially in Turner's, there's a bunch of kids that live closer than that. who
Right.
Walk
So
to school, right?
we've
And-
looked at
and-
that a number of times. So downtown Turner's is less, it's about 1 mile from Sheffield and Hillcrest, the elementary schools. But it is
Okay.
more than 1.5 miles from the high school, middle school.
Right, but I'm
Those-
thinking more like Turnpike Road, Hillside Road.
That's right. Turnpike
I
Road,
mean, there are people who live around there,
right.
probably within, and I wondered, given that it looked like what they had done was to take existing bus routes, I thought, well, existing bus routes don't pick up kids that live right
True.
across from the high school
Right, so,
or on Hillside Road, which is right behind the high school.
yep, yep. Randall Wood Drive, Randall
Yeah.
Road doesn't get a bus to the high school. So there are
Okay.
some areas that they would have to pick more kids up. Yes, you're right.
Right, and that would change the routing, I would think.
Yep, and change the numbers on those buses. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep, it's
The-
not as significant a number for the high school as it is for elementary. If we were to move our elementary students, that would be a significant change for us
Okay,
because of
And you
the
get
downtown
reimbursed
area.
for those kids. The state would reimburse you for those kids for the
If-
mile and a
if-
half because they're over a mile and a half.
Right,
I
they'd be
I
over a
don't
mile.
think
and a half
busing would
from
be the
their-
biggest issue if we tried to do something with the elementary schools.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
busing would still be reimbursable if it's over a mile and a half. If they're going to their home school. So. Which is, it's a big deal. And you don't have to have a bus any closer than a mile from any house, right? So I live 1 mile from the high school. So if I had kids, they had to walk to the high school, right? On Turnpike Road with no sidewalks, because we don't need sidewalks here. But they could take a bus from the high school. They could go there, get on a bus. They wouldn't need to have a bus in front of the house because it's within a mile of the house, each stop. So you bus kids a mile and a half from their home to school, and the bus stop for that child needs to be within a mile of their house. So some areas,
Now,
when you're looking at a little dead end road that leaves Miller's Falls Road, some of those houses are just barely under a mile to the main road. So, those kids walk out to the main road to get on the bus. And that happens in a lot of areas.
so do you have it, Joanne, that if you're running a bus there anyways, and there are kids that, are a little, it's sort of on the way.
Yeah.
Do you just pick them up and you just don't charge them for the mile and a half? Or
No.
you don't pick them up?
We don't pick them up because if we did, we would have to add 2 buses, maybe 3 buses to pick up downtown Turners for elementary
Okay.
school.
So it's a matter of room. Okay,
Right.
so it's a room issue.
It's a room issue for that area, right? For that neighborhood of downtown Turners, it's a room issue. For other areas, it's not a room issue, but it's, if we pick them up because there's room and because we're driving by, then that bus suddenly doesn't get as much reimbursement, right? Because now it has non-reimbursable kids on it. And if we're picking
Yeah,
up a
yeah.
kid from Randall Road to bring them to the high school, but we're not picking up the 6-year-old that lives on 3rd Street to bring them up to Hillcrest, that is frowned upon, right? We need
Yep.
to be fair. And so if we're being fair, we can't say, you don't have a car downtown in Turners, and so we want you to walk your student up the hill when it's snowing in the ice, when it's 20 below 0 to bring them to school, because we can't bring a bus down there. But we're going to pick up the kid on Turnpike Road because, the bus is empty and we're going to drive them right by. Even if that family has a car, right? Really doesn't go well. And if we
Yeah,
try to make
yeah.
exceptions and say, okay, we feel bad, these kids can't get to school if we don't pick them up, and we bring a bus downtown Turners, there's 100 kids trying to get on that bus. So we try not to do that. We've had a walking school bus where, adults go down there and they walk the students up the hill.
How did that work out? I remember hearing
It
about
worked
that.
out pretty well. Yeah, it was a pretty good sized group of kids, but there's a lot of families that do drive their kids, or they walk them on their own, or they carpool with people. So, there are
So
other opportunities.
So would your suggestion be, if we get the grant, maybe have a follow-up meeting with this group and talk about different options to explore, and then put something together for an RFQ, or put it out and see?
Right. We could try talking with this group. The other people, I had talked with are people that are familiar with busing and familiar with the software and, that work in transportation and might be interested in, getting a consultant fee to look at something. But
Yeah.
those people are not really available during the school time, school year. So if we get more money and it goes through the summer, we might be able to get somebody to do something. Somebody in transportation in Massachusetts might be interested in earning a consultant fee and doing that instead of
Okay.
this group. Because this group, it doesn't matter how many times I talked to them, they just didn't seem to understand what I was saying. So,
That's
Not a
frustrating.
good sign.
yeah,
One other thing to mention maybe, just because it's come up a couple of times, is the option of, we've been going with the model of middle school at Pioneer, high school in Turners. What about combining middle school and high school at one of those facilities? Basically, don't split them up,
right.
and maybe pick Turners because it's bigger and newer, and say I from Montague, but basically we've been told sort of anecdotally that a reason behind not splitting them up, behind splitting them up, was more political than anything. That the suggestion was that, suggesting to close one of the schools wouldn't go over well, and I can understand that. But
Right.
from a kind of, if you were to say, here's the best way to do things, is there really an advantage to splitting up the middle school and the high school, having them in two different buildings, however many miles apart they are, versus having them all in one place?
Yeah, I think financially, it would make more sense to have them all in one place. Then you really don't have any added transportation costs because really you just have to add 20 minutes to the end of a run, to get
Right.
all the kids there. And maybe you have some savings because, the bus traveling through Irving and the bus traveling through Gill continues to pick up kids, right? So you get some sort of savings. And then you should have staffing savings if they're all in one building.
Mhm.
But I'm not the educational
Right.
side of
But I would
things.
think you could have programmatic, because you could have, the same people teaching middle school and high school at different levels.
Right.
presumably.
Yeah.
And,
And
you know,
so Montague still has MSBA funding on the high school building. We're still within our 20 years of when the last renovation was. I don't know when Pioneer's last renovation was to close a school.
What's the
So maybe it's more than
capacity?
political.
90s,
Yeah.
96
No,
or 7.
96 or 97. So you're
Yeah, I think so.
outside the 20 years. So, they may not
Isn't that right?
like slap you on the wrist if you close
we're nowhere near recommending that, but it just in terms of something to keep in mind when we're trying to explore options. And I'm thinking partly of the bus routes, that if there were a way to say, well, what would the bus routes look like if that were a configuration, if it were easy to get an answer to that, that would be a piece of information
Yeah.
we want to have at one point.
right.
Well, if they really want us to have a bigger district, the state ought to think about waiving that requirement.
Yeah, well, they generally have you pay back. There is a penalty that, they could waive, but they do frown upon you asked for this. I think it had to last 50 years if you're building a school or doing something. And then at any rate, it is a huge political issue because a school is the identity of the communities. And so, Pioneer has the ability to, if they had a middle school there, to have one, really tailored to being a magnet middle school for the area, not just the combined district. So we can explore that more, but I think politically that's dead in the water. unless if there was a recommendation to say, we have two recommendations. One could be this, one could be that. Which one would you prefer? So in the end, I don't think we're going to be just making one recommendation. I think there may be a couple
Good.
to look at. So,
Did other questions
Mike,
on
can-
the report, or should we let Alan move on to other topics?
so,
Oh, I'm hearing silence. So Alan, I think you're.
okay.
Go.
So I'll just, a couple quick things, Joanne. I'm trying to keep a record of with everything together, what we have. And it's like $80 for a cartridge here. I just went and bought one. So can you, and one of the members here, I don't know if it was Jane or Lynn, somebody said they wanted a hard copy. Can you make a hard copy of the Abraham's report and of this TransFinder, and I'll put it in a notebook for availability. We should probably have one in your district, one in Pioneer District, and I would have one to let people borrow, I guess. So if that were possible, that would be really good.
Yeah, we can
Um,
print a copy for you.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope, the point of the grant, we put in money, and the lion's share of that money was going to be for Gil Montague to reimburse you for the copying, that you'd be doing on behalf of us and whatever. So that's really where we want that supply line item to go.
Okay.
For you to be able to have that. Another question was, someone had talked about it, if we're in pursuing a grant, we might want to have in there where we pursue the director of food services maybe being shared and seeing how, sort of putting our toe in the water and seeing how that might work. Do you have any thoughts on that? And what might we actually be able to explore to see how it works, or no?
Yeah,
Without
I'm
emerging yet,
hiring a
just
food
as-
service director now. I'm ready because I had somebody left. So I've been the food service director. So that's been fun. But
So is that contract flexible enough where they might be able to provide that service to Pioneer as well as food service director, and then share the cost, or give her a little more and then share the cost? Any thoughts?
yeah, I think, I did talk to Pioneer about the food service director, and they're paying a significant amount of money for that position. So it was even paying half seemed like it would have been more than what we would be paying for the position. It was just a huge amount, and we just weren't ready to go in that direction to share that position. So, we didn't move on that.
Now, I thought their person was leaving and you were hiring, and so they wanted to know if you had any interest. It was the other way around?
Yeah, our person left.
Yeah.
Oh. Interesting.
So we did talk to them about it, and I think maybe some of our needs, what we have that person doing, were different. It just didn't feel like something we could do
Okay.
right now. The mix of
All right. So maybe we can, in the grant, we could have them explore that possibility to, talk to the food service directors and see if some of those things could be ironed out and workable. So that was a possibility. The other thing is, well, I had a couple things. You had your buildings all appraised and so forth. Is that information now that we could get, or the finance committee could get? Like, you had your buildings appraised for mechanical, structural, whatever, to
Yep,
see where everything's good?
we've only done the elementary school so far. So the high school project is just getting started now.
What's your ETA on that, Joanne? Is there?
Well, they were coming tomorrow to take a look at the building, but you know, they need to be able to get a visual of the roof, so that's not gonna work with all the snow.
Right.
So there,
Okay. So
there
that's
will
a-
be,
I mean, are we looking at
it could be a couple
month
of
or-
months by the time we
couple of
get the
months,
final
okay.
report.
Are they looking at, mechanical systems as well, like
Yep.
structural and mechanical?
Yep, they're looking at structural, mechanical, you know, the grounds, the walls, the equipment, the electrical, plumbing, heating.
So I wonder if our grant could help you out a little bit if we get that.
Oh, our
Because
towns,
that's what,
the towns paid for this. They approved it as a capital thing, so that way we could get these assessments done. So we did our
okay.
Montague Elementary Schools, and then we're doing the secondary. We don't have the Gill money yet. So,
Okay.
you know,
So who raised that question? I think it was Jane. You were asking for our schools to,
Well, yes, I thought that we needed to have that evaluation for all the schools in both districts. So we knew what we were buying. And before we went out and spent money to do that, we should find out from the towns and the districts what they had done and or had in the process.
yeah, so Pioneer could have the buildings assessed, their building condition assessments.
You know, I mean, I think that some of the towns have probably already done that on their elementary schools. How formal it was, I don't know. Or how thorough it was, I don't know.
Right.
That's
so
Ours-
Mike, maybe you could reach out and see if you could get the, what's been done, and we can start putting that together, and Joanne can maybe give us the elementaries that were done, and then when you finish the middle school and high school, we can have that all reviewed to be part of the package
what-
when we're going
Does
forward.
it, I mean, do we? Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I'm wondering, would it make sense to wait until everything is done and there's,
I guess.
I think it's the high
if-
school one that you need from Turner's Falls, because the Montague buildings are owned by the town of Montague. They're not
Well,
owned by the district.
well, part of our idea was to get a sense of just what, of the big picture. So the
Mhm.
elementary schools are, we're interested in their condition.
But
Yeah,
I,
so these
But
reports are
you're right, the
about
high school,
70,
we're more interested in the high schools.
right. These reports are about $7,500 per building.
Wow.
and
But we get a better product than we got from TransFinder.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, Joanne, do you have them? Would it be possible for me to get copies of what you have?
Yeah, because you're
I
not on the board anymore.
the
But I did
only,
send them to the town. I can send them to you, but they're really huge files, so they don't send well all the time.
Okay,
So I can try to send them. They did Sheffield as 3 buildings. They did each building separate, so it's 4
Okay.
reports. So I can try to send them, but it might be 4 emails.
okay. Do you have Dropbox or anything?
I'm
Well,
not sure.
4 emails is fine. If 4 emails works,
Okay.
4 emails is fine.
All right.
And if
So-
it doesn't work, we'll figure something out.
I just need to get up and get a pen, because I have 2 pens and neither one of them is writing anymore. So I'm not going to
Okay.
remember anything we're talking about. So hold on a minute. I'm
All right,
gonna
I'll-
grab a pen.
I'll give you my quick list when you come back then, of
Okay.
what we just talked about.
All right.
And so while she's doing that, Lynn, you had said something in the minutes I was reading that you were gonna be responsible for looking at, having the buildings look professional, building inspections for structural and mechanical, and you're gonna get back to me with, on some names and stuff, but I guess I'm hearing you don't really have to do that now, right?
Sounds that way.
Well, there's
Well,
still
what about
Pioneer.
Pioneer?
Sounds like they know the specialists that can do this. And they have a ballpark cost. of what it will cost. So if they have people that they know of that are good, I think that's where you want to be.
All right, so that's what you're saying, Michelle, is, but we need to get those people to find out who those
Find
people
it.
are to, if the towns haven't done anything, maybe we could have these people look at our schools for us.
Right.
Or particularly the high school, as Joanne suggested.
Right.
Joanne, how did you pick the people who are doing those studies?
Well, so when I was at Mohawk, we had building projects done through MSBA. We had roofs and windows done. And I had the OPM that oversaw the projects. When I talked to them about having the buildings assessed and, coming up with a capital plan, they said that they do building assessments and they could do all of our buildings. And I think they did all the buildings at Mohawk for 15,000 or something like that. They assessed all the buildings and gave us a report. So we used them to do that. And then I went out to bid when I was here and they bid on it and another company bid on it as well. So we went with them to do them here. So the price has gone up a little bit. It's been 10 years since we did that at Mohawk. But what happened when I was at Mohawk, so we wanted these reports. It gives you a 15-year presentation of what your capital needs are, what your maintenance needs will be, what are the costs. And I'm just going to look and see if I have a file, and if I share my screen, you can see what that looks like. So
Did they make it clear, Joanne, whose responsibility it was in those reports? Like, this is the towns, this is the administration?
Oh, no,
in
because
terms of maintenance?
that's district by district. That's different.
Okay.
Yep.
So they did.
When were you at Mohawk? When were you at Mohawk?
I was there for 8 years, from 2006 to 14.
Oh, that's funny, because I was there from 2000, let's see, 1998 to 2006 or 2005, I guess.
Right.
Hmm.
Michael
Yeah,
had been
7
there
years.
a year when I went.
Got it. Oh,
Hmm.
interesting. We just missed each other. Shoot.
Yeah. So let's see.
So all those
Got it.
building projects are done. And
Yeah.
they're losing population.
Right. Yeah. The buildings, the buildings were all, I'm not finding that report handy here.
No
So I
big deal.
can't share it.
We
but-
could look at it when we get them, Joanne.
Yeah. So I took those reports and it had like a 15-year capital plan, and I broke it into 5-year increments. And then we created our 5-year plan so we could go and look at everything that was of issue. And so I gathered all the town, like the select boards, their capital committees and our facilities. And we went to each school and we just did a review of all the things that were in that report. And then we established a capital plan with it. So these reports came a little late in Montague for us to be able to do all of that, to get our 5-year capital plan off the ground for this year. So I'm hoping that by next year, we'll be able to tour the schools and take a look at the reports and see what's happening. But as soon as I finished doing all of that at Mohawk, then I left and came here. So, I don't know how anything turned out.
So if you have your pen, I was looking for hard copies of the report and the transportation report.
Okay.
And was it you, Jane, that you wanted one?
I said it would be easier to flip through pages than to sit on the computer all the time.
Okay. So how many copies do you need? Do you need?
Well, I was thinking, what was I thinking? One for the complete notebook, so we have that, one for each district. And I don't know, it'd be a lot of copying if you had one for each town. So maybe, I'm trying to think of, how do we make it accessible, like the boards of selectmen can have a copy?
Well, aren't they
Trying to
on
think.
your site,
Yeah,
on your website?
Yeah, they probably don't need a hard copy.
No,
So
they
I'd
are.
say
No, we don't
4.
need a hard copy. Leiden doesn't. I can get it online.
No,
Okay.
Montague,
Okay, so
Montague's
4.
a green
It'll
community.
collect
so-
dust.
I know.
think,
I don't really need a hard copy either.
Okay,
I
so
just
3.
well,
computer.
well,
So
Jane,
three.
if you'd like one, you should get one.
So, I
Because
mean,
you're
I can
actually
make
gonna
one
use
for
it.
our books. We haven't been keeping up like all of your notes and everything in the books, but we have a couple of books there. You know, and I
Yeah, so
have the
make one for
electronic
you.
version.
Yeah, one for
Um,
you, one for Pioneer, one for me, because I'm collecting all our minutes and all our,
Yep.
all the, like Mike did, so that there'd be a complete one. And when it's all said and done, I'll just give it to the district, then you'll have everything.
Right. So I can print a copy for you. We can send the copy or send the reports up to Pioneer and they can print them there. And
Mhm.
then, you know, we have them.
Pioneer can
Montague.
get it online too.
Right.
Right.
All right, so make a copy for me, because I just don't
Okay.
have the ink in my printer to do that, and the TransFinder, and I'll put it together in the 6 town regional planning board notebook.
I'm in a
Okay.
meeting. I'll call you back.
And then I'll email Mike the building condition assessment reports.
That'd be great. And Jane, do you want a hard copy?
No,
You sure? I mean,
I-
you're not just saying that because,
because it's a lot of paper. I could print off individual pages instead of thinking about printing the whole report, right?
Yeah.
well, I'd say it's up to you. I mean, you're on the committee. We're the ones who are using the report, so.
Yeah. If I'm going to
You
print
should- you
one,
should
I
have
can
one.
print 2.
Okay,
You want one of the Abraham's report?
I'll take one.
Okay. Just the Abraham's report? You probably don't want this TransFinder thing?
No,
Oh,
I think
gosh.
Okay.
we've wasted enough money on TransFinder.
They're pretty.
Gee,
Well, I'll get one just for the
200
notebook.
pages.
So it's comprehensive.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
So my.
That was the follow-up I had on the different things from the finance committee from your last meeting. I wanted to follow up with Joanne and things that you brought up, so.
Okay,
Do
It's
we know,
both.
Joanne, is it the first week in March they're thinking about letting us know who gets the grant or not? Did they give us a window?
I don't remember, but I can look. See if I see anything on here. I have a lot of grants floating
I don't know
around
if I
right now.
misunderstood. Yeah, I didn't know
Trouble
if I
keeping up.
misunderstood your email. It sounded like your email said they wanted the answer to that question that you sent me. So that, because they were going to begin deliberations like this Monday, yesterday.
Oh, yeah, they were going to begin deliberations really soon. So,
Okay. Yeah, all right.
but I can see when, if it has any kind of an award date listed.
Yeah, I think Michelle, I don't know, she something about still appropriating money for it. They weren't quite sure yet or something. So the first or second week in March, and I was kind of saying, you keep pushing the envelope and you expect everything to be done by June 30th. I hope you're gonna look at a extension, and then they have to file with someone to request the extension, and they either allow it or
Right.
not. So
Yeah, it's
The other thing-
still, it's upon approval of the commissioner right through June 30th. So that's not a lot of time again. It takes forever to get this money and then you have to rush through
That's
the work with
crazy.
it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I think last year was just, so many things going on that it was impossible for them to get approval to push anything out. So it wasn't extended, but to try to get work done
Right.
again by June 30th is going to be crazy.
You're right.
But we're gonna have to be very focused on what it is we want them to do and just hold their feet to the fire to
Right.
get us what we want. So. Right,
okay. Is there more for Joanne?
Thank you
Thank you,
very
by the way,
much,
Joanne.
Joanne.
All right. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that report didn't end up bringing us any information. That
That's
was
all
really
right.
helpful.
Not
Well,
your
this,
fault.
I think
Thank
this
you.
was very helpful. It was a good discussion.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Thank you for all the work
Thank
you've
you.
done and all the work you've done on getting the grant submitted when we had like 4 days to
That was-
to get it done. So we'll see.
All
We'll see
right.
what they say.
Thanks.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Okay, Joanne, thank you
Bye.
very much.
Yeah, bye.
Okay.
That was productive.
That was good, I think. Starting out,
Yeah.
well, starting with Joanne saying she wasn't sure what she could offer, I think she offered quite a bit.
Oh, gosh, I mean, that
Yeah.
was so helpful. I was so frustrated at trying to read that report and understand
I
it.
know.
I know. Okay,
Now we
well,
know why.
we've got one more item on our agenda I'd like to cover if we can, which is our minutes from January 7th. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
And so has everyone had a chance to review them?
I haven't seen them.
Yes, I have.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make it.
So moved. Oh, let Len do it. Len
Okay,
moved it.
Approve.
Okay, second,
Second.
any discussion? I just noticed,
It's been so long since I read them, I can't remember.
well, I did have one thing about the middle of the first page. There's a sentence that says, Mike thinks the towns may have already completed evaluations of their buildings. And later on, I think it's the 2 sentences further down, it says, Mike thinks Gilmonte has already completed an assessment, which is more accurately what I think I said.
Just strike one
So I was going to just suggest getting rid of that first
with
sentence.
this.
I think you did say them both, but you might have just been redundant.
I might have, and I actually, I mean, I don't actually know about the Pioneer Towns. I don't have I won't claim to think that they have already have done it because I don't know if they
No.
have or not. I haven't heard that they have.
I don't think they have.
No, we
So
haven't.
I would have meant to have emphasized Gilmonte.
Yeah,
Other
there was
than that-
another sentence in here that said that Greg and Alan said something, and I read it and I went, it didn't make sense to me. But
Oh,
I know
about
Michelle's pretty
Mark
copious on her notes.
About Mark
So-
Abrams. Mark
Yeah,
Abrams,
what did I say?
Greg personally, that was definitely in there.
Yeah. Speak to Greg, we'll follow up to see better. That was in there, and Mike stated the formatting. It's something that said, and Alan agreed.
Oh,
Alan thought that it would be a great gesture, wondering if the FinCog should look more at the services district, James Field. I mean, it's not that important, so, I mean, whatever I agreed with, I just wasn't clear what I agreed.
I don't have them in front of me. I don't have it open.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm skimming quick to see if I can pick it up again. I should have underlined it. Give me 1 second. No, well, I don't have any other. Alan stated GM can say its member towns we're adding back position. Did I say that? So Alan stated Gil Montague can say to its member towns, we are adding back positions with the increase in state aid. and the towns could counter or not that they do not want to see any increase in their assessments due to the increase in state aid. What?
Yeah, it was about the, how Gil Montague is getting more money
Yeah.
this year. And something you were talking about, well, Gil Montague towns might say to them, we don't want to see our assessments increase, meaning, like the school board could say, well, we're going to put all these positions back because we got $400,000 more. But the towns could counter and say,
Oh,
we don't
got
want our
it.
assessments to go up.
Okay, now I understand. I remember now, right. They might not want to add positions. They might want to just have it go to their assessment. Got it.
Yeah. And I probably didn't state it very clearly, but that's what we were talking
Well, it
about.
jogs my memory now because that's what we were talking about. I was reading it in
Yeah.
a vacuum and thinking, what was I
Do we-
talking about?
Do we want to,
Yeah.
do we want to suggest a change in wording at this point to clarify it, or is it clear enough?
Well, let's try to not do this too bad. See, Alan said that Gilmont. If it said, Alan stated Gilmont might not want to add back positions and
Right.
instead have the increase of state aid go to reducing the town assessments. That's basically, because that, and then you could eliminate a lot of words in there. So Alan said the towns might not want to add back positions, but rather have the increased state aid go toward reducing their assessments.
Okay.
I hope that doesn't come across like I'm suggesting that they do that.
Well, it, based on our affordable assessment, we probably wouldn't say that, but we certainly could.
Right. It was just a suggestion, yeah. That you
Well, it
were,
was an option that the towns might consider, that,
Right.
I'm an educator, so I'm thinking that we're going to have robust and rigorous programs. I wish I had used the word rigorous. I had originally used the word rigorous, and Greg convinced me to use the word robust. That was the right
robust.
word to use. So when I heard, let's define robust, I went, oh God, I could define rigorous, but I don't know how to define robust.
Well, that was Karen's question.
Right.
I know. And if she didn't know the answer to that question after being an educator for 20 years, I have no more comment.
Maybe she wanted to know if we knew.
Oh,
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe our definition.
Well, that
Any-
was her question. What her question was, what do you mean by?
Right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Or how are we defining robust?
Yes.
So
Right.
do we have
Why
other,
didn't you say,
other,
how do you think we're defining it? Throw it back.
I'll be smarter, Jane, next time.
I won't be there. I wouldn't think of it if I were sitting there, but I'm here.
Hmm.
so anything else on the minutes? Any other comments or? All right. All in favor? Roll call vote. Lynn Reynolds?
Yeah, what I learned, I went to that school committee thing and they said from now on, we have to have roll call votes on everything.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So Lynn Reynolds,
Aye.
Jane Dutcher, Alan Genovese,
Yes,
Michelle Druso,
Aye.
Mike Naughton, aye. So unanimous. Thank you very much, Michelle. Nice job.
right. And did you
Thank
get,
you,
did you get the, whoever's doing the minutes, did you get the time that, that Jane came on? What time did she come
4:18
in?
PM.
418.
Perfect.
4:18.
Yeah.
And Jane, just so you know, Lynn volunteered to do the minutes this time, so you're up next.
I'll see who I can pass it off to.
Oh,
I
no.
know, I won't.
I almost sent Lynn a note apologizing for not being able to get to this meeting on time because I
I'm
knew.
thinking this Jane is pretty good about.
So Lynn,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I owe you one.
Now, yeah.
That's okay.
Mike,
though.
did
Just-
you get
Just
a-
warning you now, just warning you now.
Yeah.
We're on to you.
Mike, did you get an email from somebody that said, that was asking the question about how they could join the meeting? And they wanted to know if it was posted correctly with their, with a way for them to come into the meeting? I read an email that was, I think I was CC'd on, that was going to you, and I didn't quite understand what she was getting at.
When did that come?
It came,
I don't recall
Uh,
seeing one.
yeah, it came a
What?
couple days ago, and she says, I'm familiar with the open meeting law, and I'd have to close this to get it. I can forward it to you, but she was questioning whether or not the meeting was posted correctly because she wanted to join and she didn't see a link on the agenda. Now, maybe it's not clear enough that you have to copy and paste this. I think they were used to just, clicking on it and getting in. I don't know.
Well,
But
you
I'll
can
forward
click
it
the
to you.
PDF. You can click the PDF one. It takes you there.
Oh, I tried that. I had to copy and paste it.
Oh,
Interesting.
no, I clicked the PDF. You can't do it in Word.
That's why I was a few minutes late. I was a few minutes late because I couldn't, it wasn't letting me in.
Hmm.
So,
I just bring up Zoom, like as Mike suggested, if you've downloaded Zoom, then you can enter the
Yeah.
meeting number, whatever they call the thing.
That's
meeting
what I
number
did.
and
Yeah, yeah.
password. That's really
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, that's
All
the way
right.
I would recommend. Well, Al, if you want to forward it, I
Yeah.
don't recall seeing that. I get a lot of emails and it may have slipped by somehow.
All right, I'll forward it to you, just so you see it, and maybe you could write back and just
I
calm
will,
her.
I will.
She's on the Warwick Transition Committee,
Okay,
so
Diana,
she probably has an interest to see what's going on.
okay.
Diana,
Yeah, Diana Noel, is it Noel?
Yeah.
or something?
Noble. Yeah,
Noble?
she's on finance.
yep.
Okay, be looking, I'll forward it. Yeah, you're right. How'd you know that, Jane?
I know her
Good
because
guess.
she's the chairman of the finance committee up there.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I did put review consultants report and next steps, but it's now
5:30.
5:30. So I'm not sure we have anything new to talk about.
Well, not just that, you did get the report. I saw emails going back and so they want to be done. So they said, can Craig and I, accept this as the final? I think that you got all your answers, Mike, and they fixed the pages or whatever. So,
Mhm.
Greg was putting up the correct paging.
Yeah.
And fixed the chart, right?
Yes, the paging, the formatting is better. The paging is better.
Mhm.
They did correct the Gill local contribution on one of the charts. They also corrected all of the local contributions on, I think it was chart 46.
Yeah.
I had pointed out to Mark that the same numbers appear on 4 charts. It's those charts that go through the 2 chapter 70 scenarios and also the
Mhm.
2
Yeah.
program scenarios, and based on those budgets, talk about what town assessments would be. And every single one of those charts uses the same numbers for local contributions for the towns, of course, because those Chapter 70
Right.
and the programs don't affect those. And they only changed one chart. I had mentioned to Mark in email that if he changed one, he might want to change the other three. When I said, I don't know if you want to bother it, but if you change one, you should change the other ones. They only changed one. And they also left that paragraph that's been in there twice since the beginning is still in there twice, back on page 23 and 24.
Oh, all right.
So I'm ready to be done with them. I'm happy to say, I don't care if those charts are wrong. If they don't care, that's their product. I know what the numbers are. They agreed that the number that is in the appendix is correct, and they did change the one chart. And
Okay. Well, I did
you know.
follow up. I wanted to let you know that, and I said that, we want to get it sooner than later. So if people want to look at it. We want it.
no, that was good.
Correctly
I'm
formatted.
glad they fixed the paging. That was really the big thing.
Yeah.
All right. You want a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Unless someone has something else. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second,
Okay, all in favor, Lynn Reynolds,
Aye.
Michelle Geruso,
Hi.
Alan Genovese.
Aye.
Jane
Michelle, can I
Dutcher.
call you?
Yeah.
yes.
Jane,
Jane
Yeah.
said, yeah.
and Mike Naughton, aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna give you a
thank you,
call.
everybody.
All
And
right.
we won't plan another
Right.
meeting till we decide what we need to talk about. If anybody thinks we should have a meeting at some point, let me know. I can try to set one up. And
Yeah,
Well, we
not
have a
until
meeting-
after budget. The
Right, we have a
budget's-
meeting on February 16th.
Okay.
is
So,
that definite?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. So you could just give a little review, short, I'll put it on the agenda, just kind of an update on the transportation. I hope it doesn't sound like it was a total waste of time and money, but give a little review. Well, I wouldn't want that to get out there when we're applying for another grant,
I know.
because
well,
you know,
it wasn't Joanne's fault.
no, it wasn't. And the downside is somebody else wrote it for us, and thank goodness Michael did, because that's what formed the planning board, and Michael Sullivan. But now I feel that we are more in the driver's seat when we decide. I wrote it broad enough to include a lot of the comments that were made, and so we can just narrow that down and zoom in on the things we want done. Okay,
Okay,
Okay.
good.
See you later.
Michelle,
All
I'll give
right.
you a call. Or do you
All
want to,
right.
Michelle, you're at home, Michelle?
Yes, I'm at home. I just
All right,
got
you want to give
plowed
me a
out.
call?
Yes.
Okay, give me a quick call. You call me.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
bye.
Bye.
I'm leaving the meeting. How do I leave?
You click
How do I
on leave.
Where is it leave? I'm
On
trying to
right-hand
leave.
corner at the bottom. It's not